All right. So there is one relating to right to property. Okay, right to property. What was the situation prior to 1978 and what is the present position? Now, when we talk about right to property, it was there in Article 19 of the Constitution, 19 clause 1 clause F, but later on it was removed from there. So what was the need for removing it and what is the position? Okay, so after independence, when India got independence, Constitution became applicable and it became enforceable from 26th of January 1950. At that point in time, right to property was included as a fundamental right under Article 19(1)(f), Part 3 of Constitution. And it was enforceable. We could go to the court for violation of this fundamental right. If somebody was taking away our right to property, we could go to the Supreme Court directly to enforce it. But just after independence, what happened? Also, we were having a lot of directive principles whereby state was having responsibilities to ensure a lot of things were given to citizens of India, right? So in order to focus on these developmental activities or developmental projects, government needed land. But at that point in time, Jamindari system was very much prevalent. So big Jamindars would have big areas of land, and there was almost nothing left for the common people or for the government to start with infrastructural projects. So what was happening is this property was, because right, property was added as a fundamental right, that was creating a lot of problem in ensuring socio-economic order. Jamindars will have the property, all the common people will cultivate under him, and they would get some very less amount, even though all the hard work is done by them. Those things used to prevail. And also, government was not able to construct anything, start with any developmental work. So state was to acquire private property for public purposes like expansion of rail, road, industries, etc. For that, they needed land. So there were certain land related legislations also, Jamindari abolition legislations also, which were introduced. And a lot of cases were filed before the court saying that these legislations are not valid because we have it as a fundamental right. So this Jamindari abolition laws are not valid, whichever are being introduced. So there was like a constant conflict going on. One side, we were having fundamental rights, and another side, all these legislations were being challenged in the court. Okay, again and again. So, in order to get rid of this problem, Supreme Court gave this decision in Keswananda Bharati case, which is also known as fundamental rights case. So, in this case, Supreme Court clarified that right to property is not a part of basic structure. Are you aware what is basic structure theory and constitution?
No.
No. So you get it in amendment part. Okay, it's there in constitution 2. In amendments you would get what basic structure simply means is like basic structure of the constitution, like what is the form of the constitution, right? It says that you can make changes in any part of constitution, whether it's preamble, fundamental rights, whatsoever provisions are there. You can make changes in any part. Parliament can make changes in any part, anywhere. Okay, even parliament can change amending powers also. Article 368 is there, right? There also parliament can make changes. But there is just one restriction, which is nothing but basic structure. As in, you cannot change the basic structure of the constitution. Otherwise, you can make changes. So, if today we say that constitution is supreme law of land in India, tomorrow you cannot make a change and say that no, from today constitution is not supreme law of land in India, but IPC is supreme. That's something you cannot change because that's like the basic structure of constitution, that it's a supreme legislation in India that you cannot change. Same ways, we have a democratic form of government that you cannot change and make like, okay, we will have dictatorship from tomorrow. That you cannot do, right? Like that, there are certain things which are called as basic structure. Now, what is basic structure and what is not, we don't as such have a definition for that. It's left open that whenever a case is filed, if court feels that so and so thing also should be considered as a basic structure, court can do that. Okay, so this scope of basic structure is like open, new things can also be added. It mainly means that whatever is like the basic structure or framework of constitution, you cannot change it to something else. Okay, but whatever changes are needed, considering changes in the society, changes of time, those things are permitted. So in Kesavananda Bharti case, it was said that right to property is not like a basic structure of constitution. Like how democracy is a basic structure, right to property is not a basic structure. Because it's not part of basic structure, parliament can make changes in it. Parliament can make changes in this, right? So parliament can take away private property of person for concerned good or public interest. So for public interest, private properties can be acquired by parliament, but because it's not a part of basic structure of constitution. And that's the reason why parliament came up with 44th constitutional amendment in 1978, whereby right to property was removed from fundamental rights and it was added as a constitutional right only under Article 300A. It was added as a constitutional right only under Article 300A. So what happened is, under fundamental rights, it said that it's fundamental right. You will be guaranteed this right, right? But Article 300A clearly mentions that you have a right to property. Okay, you have a right to property, but your property rights may be taken away by way of a legislation. Okay, it's not like an absolute right. Otherwise, you have a right to property in normal situations, but if needed, sometimes property may be acquired also. Okay, so as per Article 300A, the executive cannot deprive a person of his right to property without authority of law. But if authority of law is there, then a person can be deprived of his right to property also. So the state can acquire a person's property for public purposes on payment of compensation, which need to be necessarily just equivalent to value of the property so acquired. But it should not be like very less, irrational or something like that. Okay, we even have a legislation, like there is a subject that you will get in your later semesters called Len law. There we have a legislation called Right to Compensation, Fair Compensation, Rehabilitation and Resettlement Act. That in case someone's property is acquired, they need to get a fair compensation. There must be rehabilitation and resettlement provisions also. Right, so that's nothing but the provision that we have, that as of now under Article 300A, it's just a constitutional right. Today, if you are owner of a plot of land, it's not like you are absolutely owner of that plot of land. Tomorrow, government might require that plot of land for some public purpose. Government might require that plot of land for some emergency, for some warlike situation. Government can acquire that. But yes, they will have to pay the appropriate compensation for it. The latest position with regard to property in India is well expressed by the Supreme Court of India in Indian Handicraft Emporium versus Union of India, wherein Supreme Court observed that right to property is a human right as well as a constitutional right, which is guaranteed under Article 300E. But it's not a fundamental right because this provision, Article 19, Clause 1, Clause F, is now being repealed. It is indeed a statutory right, but each and every claim to property would not be property rights. So under different legislations, you can have different rights given to you, and that rights you can enjoy. Under Article 300A also, if you are owner of a plot of land, you are owner of that plot of land, you can enjoy that. But if needed, government can acquire that as well. Okay, provision is there. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.